welcome to another edition of the PHNX D-backs podcast. Right here, we're all here at
We
PHNX.
are all here.
The mayor, the vice mayor. I am Derek Montilla. This is Thunderstick Jesse Friedman. I have a Thunderstick left over from Michaela Perkins bashing me with one, but of course, we thank you guys so much for joining us. Excited to be here again together. 2 days in a row. I don't know what to think. What do you think about that?
I could only get away from you for so long, Derek. So now I'm stuck with you for 2 days in a row.
This is what it's going to be like forever.
I don't know.
Right here.
You guys are going to have to help me. This is going to get rough really fast.
I cannot wait. Of course, this show is brought to you by the fine folks at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Go download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers can bet $5 on any team to win in the first round of NBA tournament action and get $150 in free bets instantly. You win no matter what, even when the Suns don't, which we're not discussing that on this show. That's they have plenty of content to discuss over there. And we have losing of our own to talk about here because the Arizona Diamondbacks look to take on the Los Angeles Dodgers starting tonight. If you're watching us live right now, about an hour and 10 minutes until first pitch, Jesse. We will be there over there checking out that game. But of course, we're here now talking about beating LA as motion breaks up in our chat comments, as well as hopefully just surviving LA, I think, at this point.
Surviving is a pretty good term. Yeah, I mean, when you're facing a team like the Dodgers, they obviously have, they're a pretty good team, Derek.
They beat up the poor Padres.
They did. And I mean, this lineup, I mean, we're used to seeing this Dodgers lineup be pretty formidable. But Freddie Freeman bats second now, Derek.
That's absurd.
Moogie Betts hits first. Trey Turner hits third. Max Muncy hits cleanup. Justin Turner. I mean,
they can do whatever they want.
You
they
can go. You can go
really
down the list, and it feels like, you know, almost every single guy on this list would probably be hitting like third or fourth for some other team in Major League Baseball. This lineup is at that level. And the Diamondbacks get Walker Buehler tonight, who has actually struggled a little bit this season. He has a 4.02 ERA coming in, so he hasn't been quite as sharp as we're used to seeing from him. And the Diamondbacks have Merrill Kelly, who, of course, has been really, really good to start the season. So should be an interesting matchup tonight from Chase Field.
Merrill Kelly has been outstanding to start the season, to say the least. It's kind of ridiculous how low his ERA is, 0.59 ERA, the lowest ERA in D-backs history to start after 3 starts, I believe.
Yeah.
Randy Johnson had a 1.01 ERA, but
there you go.
There's your lowest. And speaking of some good things the Diamondbacks have been doing, Pavin Smith has reached base safely in 7 of his last 8 games, batting .409 in those 8 games, and Seth Beer is hitting .371 in his last 12 with 3 doubles, 5 RBIs, and 6 walks. So I don't know. I think that once again, the younger guys are stepping up, which kind of proves that this theory the Diamondbacks have starting to kindle, starting to, a fire here. And now they get Jordan Luplow back from the 10-day injured list, as well as Tyler Gilbert coming back from AAA Reno, recalled.
Jordan Luplow, I think, is going to be a really big piece for the Diamondbacks. He's not like a household name, right? I mean, there's probably a lot of Diamondbacks fans who had no idea who Jordan Luplow was before they acquired him over the offseason from Tampa Bay. But he played in the playoffs a decent amount for Tampa Bay, and his specialty is hitting left-handed pitching. He is a pretty much a pure platoon player through and through. And when we were talking with Torrey pregame today, he talked about how Jordan Luplow would pretty much automatically be in the lineup every time the Diamondbacks are facing a lefty, which makes sense. We've talked about how the Diamondbacks have had struggles hitting left-handed pitching this season because their lineup is very heavily left-handed. And Jordan Luplow is going to help with that. Nick Ahmed, of course, who's now back with the team as well. He's going to help with that a great deal as well. So things are certainly looking up for this team in terms of hitting left-handed pitching, which has been a big struggle for them so far.
Well, and some relief for Daulton Varsho, who honestly has been doing great, but has played a lot, and I think played more than maybe anticipated playing out in center field. Again, when we talk about reaching base safely and the young guys doing it, Daulton Varsho has reached safely in 10 of his last 12 games.
That's impressive. I mean, it's honestly crazy. I mean, Daulton Varsho came up as a catcher. How many catchers do you know who wind up every day in a major league roster playing center field and leading off? Like that is not
And
catchers don't do that,
and
right?
and he transitioned well into that role because he has made some outstanding plays in the outfield. And to be honest, the one thing that he's impressed me with is his ability to navigate the porch in center field.
Yeah.
Just to kind of
it's not an easy center field to play. Chase
really
Field
not.
is pretty gnarly in center field.
I've been down there on field and center field, and I just realized what a nightmare playing underneath that overhang can be. And I think he's done an excellent job because we've seen a lot of guys. We saw Ketel Marte, who's incredibly gifted and athletic, really struggle out there with some fly balls because of just some of those circumstances at Chase Field.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the harder outfields to maneuver, and Daulton Varsho's done a really great job. Over at StatCast, they have Daulton Varsho in the 97th percentile in outfielder jump. So just his ability to track down the baseball and get off to a good start when he's tracking down the baseball in the outfield. He's in the 97th percentile in that regard.
Incredible.
For a guy who came up as a catcher, I mean, what he's been able to do in that role. We've seen the Diamondbacks, like you said, we've seen the Diamondbacks force guys who are not center fielders to try to play center field in the past, right?
Yep.
Chris Owings, a number of years ago, was put in that spot and, did a decent job for them. Ketel Marte, of course, the guy that you mentioned, and Daulton Varsho, really out of everyone that we've seen out there, has really proven to not only be able to, survive out there as an everyday guy, but actually be pretty good at it.
I just don't. I'm excited to see these guys come back. I'm not surprised to see the corresponding moves. Oliver Perez was designated for assignment. Jake McCarthy was optioned to Reno. Obviously, Jake has the options left. Oliver does not at this point in his career.
Yeah, he ran out of options just a while ago.
He's all out of options. But it has been frustrating a bit to watch him. He was not effective. I think he had one outing that he was effective, and
I think it was his first one.
Yeah, it was his first outing of the year. Right.
First day of the season, he pitched and looked really good, and since then, it's been on the season. He's faced 24 hitters and he has one strikeout, which there's just the swing and miss to his game has just been completely absent. And 4 innings, 8 hits. 9 runs, 7 earned runs. It's been a rough go for him. And the Diamondbacks have a couple of lefties out of the bullpen who have actually looked pretty decent. You talk about a guy like Joe Mantiply who has come in here and been pretty consistent for them. Unfortunately, Oliver Perez's career, this is probably the end of Oliver Perez's career at this point. And what an incredible career it was, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not that many guys come in and play Major League Baseball for 20 years. He's literally been a Major League player for like half of his life at this point, which is incredible. So, congrats to him on what's been an incredible career, even though I know, this is a sad day for him for sure.
The wildest thing, and Jack Summers from AZ Snake Pit pointed this out, but he is part of a bullpen that they're still figuring out. And I think there are some very good pieces in there. And they are really sifting through everybody to try to see who can be of value and help them win baseball games, essentially, right? Who they can rely on. I think Noe Ramirez has had some shaky outings, but he continues to prove at times that he is one of those, even though, I think even with his performances last year, he's one of those guys that could be on the bubble as far as if he doesn't perform well or can't keep those clean innings going. He might not have a spot in the bullpen, but the Diamondbacks starting pitching ERA of 2.36 ranks second in all of baseball. The Diamondbacks relief pitching ERA is 4.39 and it ranks 28th. Actually, in baseball, what they're seeing this year is a situation where the relief ERA is lower than most teams. On average, the starting ERA is higher than the relief ERA. The Diamondbacks are one of the few teams with not only that discrepancy, but that big of a discrepancy between starting pitching and relief pitching. Yeah,
it's pretty crazy. I mean, normally you'd expect your bullpen to be more effective, right? I mean, they're pitching fewer innings, right? So it kind of makes sense. That's what the outcome would be. But as you outlined, the Diamondbacks bullpen has really struggled. And I wonder if, part of that disparity can probably be explained by the fact that Torrey is not really stuck with starters deep into games. We were talking about this yesterday with, Madison Bumgarner being pulled after 78 pitches in a game that he probably could have gone further into. And when you do that, you're probably protecting the starters from giving up some of those runs, in the 5th, 6th, 7th innings. And instead, you wind up with giving those innings to bullpen guys who unfortunately have, not been quite up to snuff so far for this team this season.
The average right now for starting pitching ERA is 4.07. The average for relief pen ERA is 3.36. The discrepancy of
that is a very large
the gap is the biggest gap in 20 years.
Yeah.
So, again, it shows that relief pitching is very good right now. Starting pitching is really good. Like, starting pitching ERA is the lowest it's been, with the exception of, maybe half a dozen seasons, right? So pitching overall is better across the board this year.
Well, that's because nobody's hitting home runs, right? The home run totals so far are way down.
Runs? Daulton Varsho is hitting home
runs. Daulton Varsho is hitting a fair amount of home runs.
He is. This is true. Christian Walker had a couple this week as well, so that was fun. But again, shout out to Jack Summers from AZ Snake Pit for that information. And of course, you guys, we got the Dodgers coming up, and we'll talk about that. But more importantly, it's Monday. We're going to hit the mailbag in a second. We do want you to make sure that you check out. Jesse had a wonderful conversation with Merrill Kelly yesterday while I was watching JB Wendelken prove that he can dunk on a regulation basketball hoop. So we both had a great time in the clubhouse is what I'm saying. But Jesse's piece
we have
about
slightly different priorities.
Jesse's slightly different, but we both got the same amount of joy out of it. You'll find Jesse's piece on Merrill Kelly coming up soon on gophnx.com. If you haven't signed up to become a member, sign up at gophnx.com. You can get that annual membership. You'll get your free t-shirt, just like this beautiful job up on the wall behind us right here. You'll get whatever shirt you want. If you don't pick one of the D-backs ones, though, I will be very upset with you. But you can pick whatever one you want. That's over at PHNXLocker.com for being an annual member. Go over there and check it out anyway. You can buy a shirt. You don't have to be a member to buy a shirt. But if you are a member, you get members-only discounts over at PHNXLocker.com. Not to mention the fact that you will also get members-only access to our Discord. You can sign up to do a month-to-month membership, and you'll get your first month for just 50 cents. So, again, we got the Brute Squad in the chat. We got Brett Johnson in chat. What's good, Brett Johnson? Good to see you here, buddy. But, of course, we do want to go to the mailbag, and we're here in person, right? So even though we're here in person, it's still Monday, and we still hit the mailbag. So let's hit that music.
Always something interesting in my mailbox. I try to get to everything in my mailbox, and then once in a while there's a letter that makes
all right,
me go,
so
wow.
what we got is we got a couple of questions in the chat. If you're joining us right now in the chat, please just ask it away in the chat. We have a couple of questions from Twitter as well that we grabbed, and of course we love to ask or answer your guys' questions. So if we take a look at the questions we got from Twitter first, our first one, let's see here. Sorry about that. First one comes. Do we have the graphic for that? There it is.
There it is.
All right. First one comes from Michael. Pound the Pelicans. Yeah, I guess that's what we're gonna have to.
I don't think that was his screen name as of a couple days ago.
But anyway. He asks, how much of Ketel Marte's early struggles do you think are him pressing after his extension? Which I think is an outstanding question. What do you think?
It's an outstanding question and kind of an impossible question to answer, right?
Yeah, well, no surefire way for us to know, but I think it's a good, it's a good reason to think that. However, I will say that the team across the board is kind of down offensively, so I don't know if you can really pin that one on Ketel pressing. I will say that I think the entire team is pressing at times. I also think that the entire team is getting new information from a brand new coach. And it's just all still very new, right?
Yeah, I think so. Ketel is, from what we can tell, I mean, there doesn't seem to be anything, from an injury standpoint that's in his way. And yeah, the mental side of things is obviously pretty hard, to gauge as an outsider. But yeah, I mean, he's obviously struggled at the plate and he hasn't looked nearly like himself. And unfortunately, it's not really a fluke. I mean, if you look at some of the batted ball numbers, it's not like Ketel Marte is hitting rockets that are just finding gloves in the outfield right now. he's kind of, he's rolling over the top a lot. There's been a lot of grounders to second base, a lot of soft contact, really. And yeah, I mean, over time, I think you expect that Ketel is proven in this league to the extent that you're not super concerned about, a couple weeks that don't look right for him.
Yeah.
I think the defensive side of things, which we've touched on a few times, has maybe been a little bit more concerning. Torrey has talked about how he's a little surprised even at just how much trouble Ketel has had defensively to start the season. But he expects it to turn around. And with a guy like him, you're probably not pressing the panic button this early in the season, but obviously the Diamondbacks need him, right? I mean, Ketel Marte, Mike Hazen spoke very highly of him as being an elite player, right? As being the best player on this team. I think Mike Hazen just straight up said that, and that's been true clearly over the last few years.
Correct.
And if the Diamondbacks are, gonna have themselves a nice season where they really take a step in the right direction, Ketel's gonna have to be a big part of that, and so far he really hasn't been.
I will say this too. I think it's easy for us to say how easy it is for someone to switch positions, like Ketel has had to do over the last few seasons, right?
Yeah.
You learn different footwork, you learn different skill sets. There's different things you have to do to anticipate the ball. It's almost like some of the things he's doing at second base is still some of the stuff he'd do in center field, right? But that's not what you do playing second base.
Yeah.
Just some of his footwork and things like that. So I think that it might, like you said, just take some time for it to come around for him and just have that, time playing the position consistently. Brett Johnson in the chat asked a question. He says, I know we think the pitching ERA is unsustainable, but when do you think it finally starts to even out? I wouldn't be surprised if this series versus the Dodgers is the one that is the start of it. And yeah, I mean, you're probably right about that. I'm sure we're going to see this ERA take a big jump. But Jesse, I wanted you to explain FIP for pitching.
Sure.
And specifically xFIP, why the Diamondbacks are so bad in that category, but so good in ERA.
Sure. Yeah, FIP and xFIP are, I don't know if I would say they're the best metrics to look at for pitching, but they're certainly telling. They, combined with ERA, they can be helpful.
Sure.
FIP is really, I think, ideally used to compare pitchers' numbers from like past seasons. Okay. So looking at like one pitcher's FIP year over year, if there's not a big change in their FIP, but there's a change in their ERA, then you kind of throw that out and you say that it's kind of a fluke. And, if their FIP stays constant, they're probably pretty much the same guy. But yeah, FIP basically looks at kind of a lot of the key indicators that determine how pitchers perform. So you're talking about strikeouts, walks, home runs, and hits being basically the main inputs into FIP. Right. And it takes those numbers and it spits out basically an ERA equivalent based on those numbers. This early in the season, FIP is not necessarily useful for individual pitchers because, if you've pitched 15 innings and you've given up 3 home runs, then your FIP is going to be very high because that's a really high home run rate. Sure. And FIP is going to go crazy with that. But yeah, it is helpful in this context if you're looking at like the Diamondbacks' entire team. If you're looking at their combined FIP, that's a pretty telling number at this point. And then, do you have those numbers?
Yeah,
I think it's a big difference.
Their FIP for starting pitching is 15th in the league. It's 3.73. Yeah. So, and they have not given up a lot of home runs. So a lot of that is the lack of strikeouts.
A lot of that is that the strikeouts are low and the walks are high, as we've talked about. So yeah, that's why, I've been a little bit cautious over the last few days, over the last couple weeks about, the starting pitching ERA numbers, because there's numbers like that show you that, things are probably due to balance out. xFIP is more complicated in terms of how it's calculated. It includes other factors. I think some batted ball data is thrown in there as well. Sure. It's a little bit more nuanced than FIP itself.
Sure.
But I think that number is much higher than the ERA as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah. They're 21st in the league in xFIP. So it just goes to show that some of the other metrics, despite the fact that the ERA is very good, tends to, show that this starting pitching isn't as good as the numbers indicate.
Probably
right now,
not.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, in some situations, a runner was maybe going to score or something was going to happen, but because an error took place, it doesn't end up getting charged to the starting pitching, and their ERA looks very clean this year across the board. And again, that's kind of weird because they have had a couple of outings where the starting pitching, had quite a few earned runs. For it to be that low, just shows how good these guys have maintained. I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due. We can put them on blast for them not being smoke and mirrors, right? But
Sure.
I still think that they are very good, and I think they're going to continue to be good. I think the starting pitching will probably continue to be a strength. Right now, I still believe that part of that those short outings is to maintain that confidence level, so they're not giving up those.
Yeah.
They're not hitting that sixth inning and that third rotation, third time through the lineup, and having those runs put up against them and having those big numbers.
There's an advantage to it. I mean, there's a reason that managers, especially nowadays, it's become even more common to pull starting pitchers earlier in games because the data is clear. When a pitcher sees the lineup for the third time, there's a significant drop off in performance. And I know starting pitchers are going to hate that. I mean, there are moments where guys really feel like they have a shot at going deep into a game. And there's moments where I'm sure Torrey will give them extra leash to pitch a little bit deeper into the game. But yeah, so far, I mean, what we've seen, it's been, we haven't seen many guys go past about 70, 80 pitches in these games because Torrey has been really careful regardless of where the pitch count is at. Once they get to the third time through the lineup, it seems like that's around the time that he's using the hook.
Gabriel on Twitter, he was our other question from Twitter on that graphic, asked, will we see Thomas, Carroll, Robinson, and or Lawler this year? That's a very ambitious tweet. That's a lot.
That is, yeah. Yes, tomorrow.
Yes, yeah. Alec Thomas, 100%. I believe we're going to see him this year. The other three, I am doubtful of. If any of the other three, I think it could be Christian Robinson, believe it or not. And the reason why I say that is because overall I feel like he's older and farther along in their progression, whereas I think they have a lot invested in Corbin Carroll and Jordan Lawler.
Sure.
I don't think they're going to call them up this early. No matter, things would have to be really bad for them to see time like at the end of the year. But
yeah, you'd almost be concerned at that point in some ways. I don't think that. I think Corbin Carroll is probably the most likely out of the three names after Alec Thomas, in my mind at least. Corbin Carroll is knocking the cover off the ball in Double-A, and we've seen the teams, including the Diamondbacks, bypass the Triple-A level and just take guys straight to the major league. So I mean, if he's hitting 350 in September, I could see him as a September call-up. Probably not sooner than a September call-up. That would be my guess there. Christian Robinson, I honestly would be pretty shocked. I think you're right. He's a little bit older. He does have, some years under his belt.
I would be absolutely shocked too. I feel like if they're out of those four besides Alec Thomas, I don't know why I feel like he would be the most likely one just because at this point there's kind of nothing to lose, right?
Physically speaking, I mean, Christian Robinson is a very large man who looks major league ready from that standpoint, right?
Yes,
the physique is there.
But getting back on baseball in a baseball.
It's hard to not see, professional pitching for, a year and a half or however long it was for him and then suddenly get back into it. I think they're going to take it pretty slow with him. As of right now, he has yet to actually show in minor league games. So, I mean, there's certainly some steps to be taken there as far as his progression. Jordan Lawler, I think there's really, I'd be pretty shocked if that happened this season, but based on what he's doing in Visalia, I think a promotion to Hillsborough is likely at some point this year. So I do think that we'll see that pretty soon.
And by the way, I would probably have to stop taking OGs if I saw Corbin Carroll here, because I would think that I've taken too many OGs, Jesse. Because
you would think you've taken too many? Wait, why is that?
Well, because I think there's a point where you might, you might take too much. That's the reason why OGs has the mini OGs 3 milligram microdose option coming out.
Okay,
right? Instead of their normal 10 milligram. Sometimes a bag melts in the car and I'm forced to eat the whole bag. And that might make me think that I'm crazy when I see Corbin Carroll out there. But you can go try OG's gummies and definitely try out their 10 milligram option. It's amazing. Everybody here loves them, especially Mac. She's raves about them all the time. The orange creamsicles are by far her favorite. It really is the best sleep she's ever had in her life. And you can stop by your local dispensary and grab some amazing scratch-made THC gummies from our friends at OG's. Remember, OG's gummies make everything better. Movies, television shows, whatever, cartoons, anything better is made. It makes everything
Do
better.
they make Diamondbacks games better, Derek?
Well, if you're not driving, yes. If they're not driving,
Okay,
yes. But if you're
okay.
watching at home, they definitely make Diamondbacks games better. So, of course, try the OGs, the amazing flavors they have: orange creamsicle, tropical, watermelon, all sorts of flavors. If you're interested in trying their amazingly delicious variety of flavors that OG's Brands has to offer, go to ogsbrands.com. That's OGEEZbrands.com to find OGs near you. And we might have to maybe have a OG's performance to forget segment after this series with the Dodgers, because things might get very bad. But I don't know. I'm scared, Jesse. But of course, that's only because the Dodgers are a formidable foe that look very good this season. Now, going back to our questions, one of our questions came from Brandon Buckingham, and he asked, is it bad? I'm relieved. Oliver Perez got DFA'd. No, it's okay, right? It was fun to have him back. It was kind of a bit of a novelty.
Yeah,
and like I said, the first outing was good, but the Diamondbacks are in a different mode. And Torey Lovullo said it. He had no problem saying it in the press conference that the mood is different now. The way that the coaching staff is acting, the decisions that are being made, there's no room for feelings, it feels like, anymore. It's room for performance and showing that you want to be there, or you're going to lose your job to the next guy that they're going to bring in and try to beat you out for the job.
Oliver Perez is, it's hard not to have respect for a guy like that. But I think you're right. As much as it would be kind of a Cinderella story, right, for Oliver Perez to come in and, have a great season at age 40 for the Diamondbacks. I think there's also, there is a performance side to this where the Diamondbacks are a little bit more concerned about, the output that they're getting from the bullpen. And it hasn't been great so far early in the season. We talked about the numbers earlier, and the bullpen numbers have really been pretty rough so far. And unfortunately, Perez has been he's struggled quite a bit so far to start the season. And he'll probably go pitch in Mexico now. As far as we know, that seems to be the next step for him. His major league career is probably finished at this point. But again, not many guys, are relievers and pitch for 20 years in the majors and appear in over 700 games. It's a pretty incredible career that he's had. So, best of luck to him moving forward.
Yeah. Do we say best of luck in your future endeavors, or is that just a pro wrestling thing that I get to say?
I
I'm
think
best of luck
that.
in your future endeavors.
Yeah, I think you can say
Perez. Up in the question, up in the chat, there was a question from Motion, and he asked, which player do you think would most likely get called up from Reno next? What do you think? Like someone that hasn't been up already, because they've been sending like Corbin Martin down and Taylor Widener, and like those guys have been back and forth. But do you think it's going to be Alec Thomas is going to be the next new face we see, or do you think that's going to take longer than that? Do you think we'll see more guys make their way up first?
That's tough to say. I think Alec Thomas is you're probably looking at May for Alec Thomas, which is not far away. There's some other guys down there that you could see. There's certainly some guys that we've seen used in kind of an up and down sort of a role. Jake McCarthy, they just sent down. I think he's probably going to be back at some point. So, it could be a guy that we've already seen this season. But in terms of guys that we haven't seen yet, Ryan Nelson is certainly a name to keep in mind. One of the pitching prospects who's looked pretty good so far.
And they do want to bring those guys up into a bullpen role first to get their initial time before they get them into a starter role.
I think that's entirely possible. Luis Frias is a guy that I think we'll probably see somewhat early in the season as well. And Dan Straley is another name that comes to mind as a guy who we haven't seen yet at the major league level, but if he continues to pitch pretty well, which he has so far in Reno, he's another guy that we could see. So pretty hard to say, but there's going to be a lot of movement in terms of guys coming up from the minors this season. So we'll have to see.
Brett Johnson makes a comment. Can we get a Jesse article to explain a lot of these new metrics? FIP, xWOBA, etc. I'm not the most well versed, and I would love to try to get my dad to understand some of these new terms and such. Well, I got something better for you. We're going to have this guy over here explain to you via video. So we're going to get Jesse kind of breaking down some of these terms.
Something or other with Professor Friedman.
Something or other. That's actually what we're calling it now. It's going to be something or other with Professor Friedman.
There we go. I like that.
So that's where you'll get all of your information. in regards to all of those new metrics.
I want to touch on that real quick because, yeah, Brett, you're not alone in any way, and I think there's a lot of people.
Jesse got me like a baseball analytics for dummies book.
I did,
basically,
and I don't know if Derek has actually opened said book since I gave it to him. But
the whole thing.
You read it? Wow, cover to cover,
to cover, along with that other stupid Diamondbacks book I hate. I told you I hate. I can't stop talking about.
No, but yeah, like baseball metrics are not particularly user friendly in a sense, and I think
do you almost think they're meant not to be?
Yeah, it's a gatekeeping tactic or something, trying to keep people away.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think it should be. And I think Major League Baseball has done a better job at getting these numbers more accessible for people.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to talk more about what these numbers actually mean, and with that video
you do
series,
that for me. I won't lie, guys. I mean, there's stuff that you explain to me that I'm like. It's kind of like your explanation of FIP, right? Like I know that stuff, but sometimes off the top of your head, you know the exact like metrics that go into it.
Yeah,
and
I mean the formulas for these things are like absurdly complicated.
Yeah, right. They're incredible. They're not meant to be calculated by us the same way. Like I have the ERA formula in my head now, so I can calculate ERA pretty easily on my own.
Right.
And that I'm proud of because it took me 5 years of looking it up before I finally remembered it. So
I should mention, I didn't mention this before. So FIP stands for fielding independent pitching, which I didn't actually mention before. So the idea is that those inputs that I talked about before,
it's the straight pitching and not
exactly strikeouts, walks, homers. None of those things involve home runs. So that's the ultimate goal with FIP. But yeah, we'll talk. We'll make some videos. We'll have more conversations about all these fun numbers that I get to nerd out over.
You said that you're going to make these stats and these categories easier to digest. And our friends at Athletic Greens do the same thing. They make everything easier to digest because Athletic Greens, with one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. I've been doing it now for a few months now, and I've honestly felt better than ever. And I was just making a comment, speaking of this, in front of Oliver Perez's family, who I didn't know was sitting next to us at a baseball game.
You talked to Oliver Perez's family about Athletic Greens?
They were sitting. No. What I talked to them about, or in front of them about, was feeling better than ever at 40. Right? We have this, we have this perception that obviously like athletics is a young person's sport or young person's game, if you will. Sure. I personally know I was not a very fit young person. So what I'm saying is I'm in better shape now at 41 than I ever was at 21. And I'm proud of that. And I think that everybody can be. And Athletic Greens will help you do that. Athletic Greens is a no-brainer. It supports better sleep quality and recovery. It has over 75,000 five-star reviews, and it costs you less than $3 a day. Plus, you're investing in your health, which is something that I always forget to invest in. I invest in sports all the time on the DraftKings Sportsbook, but never in my health. So that's why I have Athletic Greens. They're here to take care of me because I don't take care of myself. So to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you 1 free year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Diamondbacks. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/Diamondbacks to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. And that's exactly what it is. I'm trying to live, Jesse. Trying to be strong.
Well,
trying to be healthy.
It's gotta be nice to to take something that makes it so it doesn't matter what you eat, it doesn't matter if you exercise, it doesn't matter. Athletic Greens just fixes all the problems, as far as I can tell from what Derek tells us.
That is all of Jesse's opinion. I run 2 miles every single day, and I hate every minute of it. Okay. So that is not why my skin glows so beautifully under these lights. Okay. That's the Athletic Greens and the running. It's the two together.
It's the combination.
It is, really is. Sense. Let's see. Anything else? Brett Johnson in our comments asked, will we ever see Zach Gallen get to 7-8 innings for a single game? Has he even reached that amount in a game since joining the D-backs?
He has reached that amount.
Yeah.
He has reached that amount, but not that often. If there is a knock on Zach Gallen since he came to the Diamondbacks, it's that he's been more of a 5-6 inning type of a guy.
Sure.
But I mean, you look across Major League Baseball, there's not that many guys who go past 5 or 6 innings with regularity anymore. So that's not necessarily a huge knock on him. But yeah, I mean, if Zach Gallen is going to take the next step and become, not just a great pitcher on the Diamondbacks, but like a Cy Young caliber pitcher in this league, that probably is the next step that he has to take. How can we go from 5 innings of, 1-run baseball to 7 innings of 1-run baseball? That's where that's a significant jump. Not that many guys are able to do that. And a big part of that is going to be, does he get the opportunity? Is Torey Lovullo willing to leave him in there for those extra couple innings each game? And that certainly factors into this as well. But yeah, I think he needs to find a way to stick in the strike zone more. Occasionally, Zach Gallen will get a little bit strikeout happy, and in those moments, it's a little bit harder for him to pitch deep into games because he's not inducing as much soft contact early in counts. There's a lot of deep counts in those games, and I think that's something, if you have any knock on Zach Gallen at this point, that's probably what it is.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. And Kyle Collins on Twitter, he asks us, how are we feeling about the Geraldo Perdomo splitting positional time news? Meaning, if you haven't heard about that Torey Lovullo the other day said that Perdomo would be seeing time both at shortstop and at third base, and they're not really ready to have Nick Ahmed out there with regularity. They want to ease him back kind of into it. But he says, I personally feel he'd be better off getting every day at bats in AAA, especially now with how well Alcantara has done in comparison so far.
That's a tough one. Yeah. I mean, Geraldo was in there at second base yesterday, so they're really moving him all over the infield. He's in the lineup at third base tonight. So, we'll have to see, how he fares defensively, kind of moving around like that. He certainly is a sound player fundamentally on the defensive side of the ball. So I think you figure you can kind of stick him wherever and he'll be pretty competent there. But yeah, Torey talked about today before the game, just that he wants Geraldo Perdomo in the lineup. Just what he's seen from an offensive standpoint. We've started to see the swing look a little bit better for him. Not only is he staying patient and, seeing his share of pitches up there, but he started to look a little bit less passive and he's starting to impact the baseball in a more meaningful way. So I think Torey's going to do whatever he needs to get Geraldo Perdomo's bat in the lineup. And, whether that's third base, whether it's shortstop, whether it's second base, I think the Diamondbacks are going to find a way to do that.
Yep. And I completely agree. And I mean, I kind of see what he's saying, though, about getting the at-bats in AAA, right?
Yeah, there's an advantage to that, for sure.
And there's an advantage to not necessarily having to switch positions. But I think what we'll see is Perdomo playing quite a bit. I think we'll be seeing him come into games late in games to take over.
It'll be interesting once Josh Rojas is back. How do you find a way to get everyone time with Ketel, with Nick Ahmed, with Perdomo, with Rojas? There's a bit of a traffic jam there.
Yeah.
But I mean, these problems have a way of working themselves out in baseball. There's injuries, there's all sorts of things that pop up. So I think there's potential for a platoon situation as well with Perdomo. In the minors, he was substantially better facing right-handed pitching as a left-handed hitter. Nick Ahmed has been substantially better facing left-handed pitching as, of course, a right-handed hitter. So there's some platoon potential there. I don't know if the Diamondbacks want to go that direction, just given that Perdomo's a young player and you want to give him exposure, facing both lefties and righties. But we'll have to see what they do with that.
I have one last question for Mailbag Monday, and we thank you guys for your questions, but I wanted to ask you, do you think they are basically sacrificing in a way, and not to say they would have it any other way, but do you feel like they're sacrificing the month of April a bit when it comes to starting pitching because they kind of, they're low, there's low expectations, and the last thing they need to do is having these guys rush getting,
what do you mean by sacrificing starting pitching?
I feel like they're being more conservative with starting pitching this year than they've ever been.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
And I know part of it is the slow start thing still.
Right.
I know they don't want to use it as an excuse. I know no team wants to use it as an excuse at this point. We're almost a month into the season.
Maybe they're being more cautious.
But maybe they're being more, because there is nothing to play for really for them, right? They don't have these expectations internally. So even though they're still trying to stay competitive and they're still trying to find the best pieces that they can to win baseball games, it also feels like they're kind of okay with these, with protecting their starting pitching as much as possible, at least here early on.
They have a lot of pitchers who haven't, who haven't pitched as many innings the last few seasons as maybe they would have ideally. But I mean, they also have guys who are pretty much fine from an inning standpoint. Madison Bumgarner pitched a pretty full season last year. Zach Davies pitched a pretty full season last year.
Merrill Kelly for sure.
Merrill Kelly, yeah. So at the end of the day, I think you're right. I think they're taking a very conservative approach early in the season. But yeah, I mean, that's a bit of a trend around baseball. Torey Lovullo is certainly not alone in being more conservative. I think especially Madison Bumgarner over the last few years, there are numbers that suggest that, once he gets past pitch number 80, the stuff tends to drop off a little bit for him. So
there was the infamous Clayton Kershaw outing, right, where he got removed before
early,
right?
Right,
so
exactly.
You're right. It's happening all around baseball. It's not just specific to the D-backs, but it does still feel like the D-backs are being conservative. And again, it feels like they really want to make sure that certain guys have their confidence, even though they're saying it, everything's performance based. It feels like they want to get guys' confidence back, right?
Yeah.
Like Carson Kelly keeps getting inserted in the lineup, whereas Jose Herrera has even received praise from the pitching staff, like for how much they like working with him, right?
Yeah.
Like he's getting a lot of talk. Like Madison Bumgarner does not praise anybody, and he praised him for the way that he calls a game and his ability to kind of see what batters are doing and make calls based on their tendencies and what they're swinging at.
I mean, I think both Carson and Jose Herrera have earned the respect of the pitching staff. But yeah, I mean, we'll have to see what this team does in terms of the catching situation. I think Daulton Varsho is certainly capable of being in that mix as well. So we'll have to see what they do there.
Clutch Canuck, you're absolutely right. I'm just hoping the pitching continues when the bats wake up. And
you kind of wonder if maybe the pitching takes a backseat and the offense,
and I'm not going to say
you've got the reverse problem.
I'm not allowed to say that that's totally a Diamondbacks thing to do. Apparently, I'm supposed to remove that phrase from my vocabulary, but you know what that means. But of course, right now we're not getting our same joy that we're getting from the Phoenix Suns as we normally would, but I don't think it's time to panic yet. It's 2-2, so let's calm down. And both teams are doing what they're supposed to be doing right now, but I still think you should bet on the Suns. The NBA playoffs mean next level basketball, and honestly, give credit where credit is due. That's what we're getting out of the Pelicans right now. They're stepping up, so you can get in on the action while watching those games with the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. This week, new customers can bet $5 on any team to win and get $150 in free bets instantly. You win no matter what. So even when the Suns don't, it might be a little pick-me-up. But existing customers can get down on same-game parlays. Of course, you can combine multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more money you win. Plus, place a same-game parlay each day with 3 or more legs and get up to $25 back if one leg doesn't hit. We're up to $25 now. So get down on that action. I'm going to be getting down on that action. And again, remember, we're not taking no plus 300 on these parlays. We're looking for plus 1,000 or bigger. We're swinging for the fences. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PHNX. Bet $5 on any NBA team to win their game during the first round of the playoffs and get $150 in free bets instantly. That's promo code PHNX at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 and over only. Arizona only. Gambling problem? Dial 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Jesse, there's something that I've known for a very long time. And that is,
here we go again.
That is that Randy Johnson is a very, very good actor. I've known that because Little Big League is one of my favorite baseball movies on this planet. And Randy Johnson makes an appearance in that movie as the villain. And that's wonderful in itself. But of course, now what we have is Randy Johnson in his older years, in his golden years, still lighting up the silver screen with his portrayal as one of the newest Ghostbusters, Jesse.
There you go.
Are you haunted by your cable service?
Have you noticed strange, frightening fees on your monthly bill?
Do you experience feelings of dread when you pass by your cable box?
If the answer is yes,
Who are you gonna call?
DirecTV Stream. Now get $30 off over 3 months.
What do you think?
8 feet taller than all of the others.
I love Randy Johnson as a Ghostbuster. I wore this shirt today that's filled with Ghostbusters just for that.
He does a good job.
It's amazing.
He fits the role.
I want that movie. I need that movie because see, like Ghostbusters is all over the place, right? So they've talked about like maybe linking up the Right to Call gang, which is the female Ghostbusters crew, with the Afterlife by making some sort of weird interdimensional portal or whatever, right? I want in that scene like what we saw in like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I want for a moment, like in Spider-Man, when the sky opened up and you see Kraven the Hunter and all the other stuff, right? I want just for a moment, I want a portal to open up, and I want those Ghostbusters to almost walk out, but then somebody in the movie goes, "Not you, A-Rod," and then that's why they don't come, you know, right? But some sort of wicked burn on A-Rod in that scene, and then Randy Johnson can laugh at him and point because he's tall.
I hope it happens.
That's
for you
that's all I want. I know it's not going to happen, but you know, one can wish. But again, who are you going to call? I don't know who the Diamondbacks are going to call tonight, but good luck with the Dodgers because this team is a beast. They might need the Ghostbusters to come help them out when it comes to taking on the Dodgers because they are a very, very good baseball team. We're going to be there tonight. Walker Buehler's on the mound. D-backs put their best option, I think, that they could to counter Walker Buehler by having Merrill Kelly up there. It almost feels like this is what that shift of pitchers during last week when the rain out or when the doubleheader happened, right? Might have been lining up for.
Merrill Kelly is not a bad guy for them to have opening this series against the Dodgers. So
and they get Zach Gallen also in the series. So best of luck to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Again, we'll be there. Follow along over on social media. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at @cap_caveman with a K. Jesse is at Jesse and Friedman. Our show is at PHNX_DBacks. Follow all of us. Follow us along the action. We'll be tweeting about stuff and taking pictures, and we'll be having some fun over there. We'll also be there for post-game, so make sure to do that. But, of course, all roads lead to at PHNX_sports, and that's on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. If you want to go over and subscribe to us now, if you're not already on YouTube, subscribe to the PHNX Sports channel and sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss any of the content from our wonderful PHNX team. If you're listening right now on your favorite audio podcasting app, please subscribe to us there and leave us a 5-star review if you haven't done so already. We thank you for it. On behalf of Jesse and myself being here in person, this is good.
Is this the last one?
I think you got to go home again. I have to go. This is the last time for a while, but when he comes back, next time we're together, it's permanent. On behalf of Jesse and myself, we thank you guys for being here in the chat, asking your questions. Mailbag Monday is always fun. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you bet on it.